Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Feiute, my young friends. Good to have you all here. Buona notte. It's wonderful to have you all here with us today. And look who we found. Not me, but the girls from UK found in near to the Thames River. Tried to find out some treasures. You know, he was with his metal pointer, metal finder, you know, trying to get some treasures over there. So metal detector, that's it, that the word. So, and since he is here, no, why not to come with us? So I want to say a warm welcome to our friend Dan Assisi. He's with us today. And also we do have our ladies, Elsa and Silvia, and Charles from France. So that's it from me today. I will open to everyone to introduce yourself and give your greetings. Let's start today with our special guests. Do you agree, Charles?
Always.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I was not mudlarking in the Thames. I was not searching for treasures, but I am overlooking the Thames right now, and I have seen quite a number of people on the weekend actually mudlarking in Thames, which piqued my interest. Maybe I should be mudlarking in the Thames. Who knows? But it's really a big pleasure to be here with you guys. You know that I have taken the liberty of adding UK to my name here on the screen. I don't know if you saw that somewhere in there, just because I really want to be part of this wonderful group of people. I know the UK speaks to my heart, so I'm really thrilled to be here with you today and have a chance to talk with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here once again in this special episode, a special night in London. Now is 9 o'clock, 9:03, and we are really happy to have Dan Assisi, that is our brother in arms to go for fighting against anything that's not good, because we are a treasure of God, talking about God, and Dan brought this treasure for us tonight. So, my dear friends, it's really good. I hope you enjoy. Make your comments and your questions, and be with us and spread the word. Thank you.
Silvia, my dear.
Oh, hello, everyone. Good evening. It's always a pleasure to be here and sharing these moments with you. Today we have a special guest, which always makes our heart filled with joy, and to be together, all of us again. And with you there, hopefully we will be able to get something for our hearts today, and that will better our lives. So whoever is listening, welcome, and it's wonderful to be with you all.
Bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous ce soir. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. Hello, Dan. Very warm welcome amongst us. You will really enrich our spiritual light today on this fantastic subject of God, which is back in the Spiritist philosophy, and which is bringing us so big comfort in our lives. So extremely interesting themes that we will develop today.
Yes, really. Yeah. So I want to welcome all of our friends from around the world. We do have Marisa from Brazil, Isabella from Goiás, Brazil. We do have Dawn from Chicago, Elsa Lee from Sweden, Leah from Sweden as well. We do have Portugal. Also, we do have, I don't I cannot identify the country here. But anyway, Argelia, I think Argelia. So good to have you all here. I will not steal anybody's time, so I will put the video today and let's talk. And Munir just getting. Hello, Munir. Good to have you here, my friend. Let me share my screen here and let's start our ride.
To think about the nature of God, first of all, we need to ask ourselves, where can we find something that proves its existence?
In an axiom you apply to all your sciences, there is no effect without a cause.
If you would search for the cause of whatever is not the work of human beings, then reason will answer your question.
To believe in God, we need only to behold the works of creation. The universe exists, therefore it must have a cause. To doubt God's existence would be to deny that every effect has a cause, and to believe that something could have resulted from nothingness.
Thus, for a significant change in human understanding of God, Kardec realized that he should first of all ask the appropriate question.
What is God?
Yes, because when you ask who, someone is already assumed, a person. When we switch to what, a broader perspective is adopted. To this question, what is God, the spirits answered,
God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things.
God is not, as we imagined until then, an old man with a white beard sitting on a golden throne amid clouds. Even less, he is not the sum of everything that exists in the universe, an amorphous and abstract energy. Such conceptions originate in the fact that we, the creatures, imagined the Creator from our still incipient capabilities, something natural in the course of our spiritual evolution. The definition given by the spirits does not end the matter. It gives us a new beginning to think about God. In fact, a complete understanding of the divine nature is still far from our linguistic and cognitive possibilities.
Could we say that God is the infinite?
That would be an incomplete definition.
Human speech is too impoverished and insufficient to define that which transcends human intelligence.
Will they ever be able to fathom the mystery of the divinity?
When their spirits are no longer eclipsed by matter,
And when they have finally purified themselves enough to be able to approach God,
then they will see and comprehend God.
Progressively, through the spiritual evolution resulting from the successive lives, each person acquires intellectual moral resources to approach the knowledge of the divine nature. For more studies and research material, go to www.spiritistacademy.com.
Wonderful.
So wonderful work from our friends from Spiritist Academy. Wonderful work from them. It's amazing to have the quality of these videos and sharing with us. And my
find the right software.
1 second. Okay. My quote today.
Really professional.
Wait.
The thing I like about
My quote today. It's the following: God is more interior to us than our interior. It is in it that we possess everything we have of life, movement, and existence. He is us more than we are ourselves. And this quote is from Ravazon. Sorry, Charles. Ravazon, Rapport sur la philosophie du 19th século, page 245. So sorry, Charles. If you want to say, let me put in the chat here because you say in a proper way. Yeah. So, and let's start our ride here, our second ride actually, with our guest. Let's put him on fire here. And then, where to find God, my friend? Please give us this map, or even though the longitude and latitude, the coordinates, give to us, please. You're on mute, my friend.
That's the quote of 2020, right? You're on mute. With all the visual and things. I guess I have not learned the lesson, but I was saying I'm just going to pull out Google Maps here and give you the coordinates. But that's a wonderful question, and I love that we are thinking about God today. I want to share with you a brief story, so it kind of illustrates, I think, how I think about God, and how it is wonderful to have that perspective that we get from Spiritism to think about God. Every time I come here to London, to the UK, one of my favorite places, which I'm actually looking at right now from my hotel window, is the Abbey, the Westminster Abbey. And it's a lovely place because it's many things. It's a museum, it's a church. But there is a special little place inside the Abbey, which is called St. Faith Chapel. And St. Faith Chapel is a small little room right behind Poets' Corner. If you have ever been to the Abbey, chances are you might not have even noticed it because it's just one small door that leads from Poets' Corner into St. Faith. And St. Faith is a cool space and a special place for me because it is reserved for prayer. And every time I have a chance to go to the Abbey, I go into that chapel, and I generally find myself by myself. There's nobody in there. And there really isn't anything inside other than a small room. But for me, it's beautiful. And in that moment, I reflect upon the 1,000+ years of history that specific place has. And in that environment, I elevate my thoughts and I pray. And that is a magical place for me. And in that moment, I feel closer to God. However, when I leave St. Faith's Chapel and I walk outside of Westminster Abbey in general, does that mean that I cannot talk to God anymore? No. So clearly, that place, which is so special to me, doesn't necessarily mean it's the only place in which I can find God. And the Westminster Abbey is not the only place either. If I were just to sit outside, or perhaps taking a stroll at night, as I like to do by the Thames, and just look at the different lines, I also feel connected to the divine. And it's easy for us to realize then that we don't have to go to a specific place to talk to or to find God. God is everywhere that we can look upon. In fact, I think the question is, where can we not find God? Because if we stop and think for a second, anything that we look at, if we pay enough attention, chances are we are going to be able to see something marvelous about it. We are going to be able to see something incredible about it. Somebody put some effort and sweat and tears building that or creating that or doing that, and it was caused by something. And in this beautiful world of us, it's hard sometimes for us to lose that perspective. And so I wonder, why is it that sometimes we struggle with finding God or talking to God? And I wonder if part of that challenge is that we have had this image of what God is, much the same way the video did a wonderful job at telling us, right, that God can be different things. I too, when I was little, I too thought that God was a white man with white beard sitting on a fluffy cloud, right, and ordering things around. I kid you not, that's what God was for me. But as I grew up, I realized that's not the case. And I began to break this idea of God through religion versus God. I was able to deassociate the concept that God comes only through a church or a denomination or a philosophy. But God is before and beyond all of that. So with that in mind, I was able to deconstruct that idea of that white man sitting on a cloud. I was able to begin to investigate in my heart and in my mind what God could really be. And something interesting kind of clicked for me, which I want to share with you. I realized that I hadn't really thought about God very much. That I was quite often asking of God, talking about God, but I hadn't spent time thinking about what God is. And so I went back to the Spirit's book. I went back to some contemplations and other readings, and I realized that it's a really important question. It's a really important question for us to examine. And here's why I'm positing this. Here's why I'm offering this. Because the kind of God that we believe in changes the kind of person we are. What do I mean by that? I say, if we believe that our God is better than somebody else's God, then we also believe that we are better than somebody else. Now, if we believe, however, that we all are sitting under the same God, then our relationship with other people also changes. And if we go back to some of the things that we learn in Spiritism, God is a supreme intelligence of all things, and start to contemplate the definition of God, of a all-knowing God, of a all-loving God, of an all-powerful God, then we realized that there can be no competition amongst us because we are all children of God. And if that's the case, does my behavior match that which I believe? Do I truly believe that we're all children of God and that God loves us? Because if God loves us, then it's not a vengeful God. It's not a God that's out there to get us or to penalize us. It's a God that's out there to teach us and educate us. And that changes our relationship with God. It's no longer one based in fear, but it's one based in love. And it's one based in acceptance because, yes, I live in the United States and you live in the UK and Charles lives in France. But are we that different? And shouldn't we honor and respect each other regardless of where we live or how we look or what we do, where we work, how much money we have? But we can only do that when we spend some time thinking about God and shedding this old perception that we sometimes hold of what God is. So ask yourself that question. What is God for me? And see if that resonates with your heart and with your mind. Because maybe those concepts of what we had learned about God no longer apply. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board, if you will, and start to think about an all-loving God that cares for us at the same level. And if we have that love and we're equalized, then how can our behavior reflect that? And so, if in this moment in time, you are struggling with the concept of God, ask yourself if that's because you have received an image or a concept of God that came from somebody else. Maybe it was from a religion, a denomination, a family member, and so forth. And stop and give yourself permission to say, I will let that aside and I will reinvestigate what God is. And when we look into a non-religious God, we find this source of all things, this primary cause of all things, by philosophy, by logic, as we saw in the movie. And then things begin to change. Because if God is the source of all things, and God is not a person, as we saw, then God is almost everywhere. Really, God is everywhere. And so, where can you find God? Where can I find God? It depends on our choices. It depends on our minds. It depends on where we are looking at. So I hope the more and more we have a chance to chat here today as well, and in our lives, have moments of reflection where we can say, wow, how did all of this come to be? It has to come to be somehow. So somebody has created this beautiful system, or something, I should say, not somebody, because somebody, right? We think of a person, but God is not a person. God is the supreme intelligence of all things. So all of this that's happening today, all our scientific laws, our natural laws, everything works. And somebody has to set up this incredible, beautiful system, which we as humans are messing it up every once in a while, let's be honest. But there is a harmony to all these things. And at the source of all this is God. It's poetic, it's scientific, and it's spiritual in many different ways. So I hope that today we have a chance to give ourselves permission to set aside the old concepts of God that we have been holding and look at them earnestly and see if those really are the things, the concept that we want to have, and if they still suit us. And that's why it's so great to have conversations such as this one. I could keep on going, but I'm going to stop here and see what else you guys think, so that it's not about just one bald guy talking his ear off in his hotel room right now.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Wonderful introduction and awesome points you raised to us. And because of these points, I'd like to invite you to eat a croissant in France. Huh? And ask to Mr. Kempf, why is it difficult for ourselves to understand God?
Oh, okay, good question. I think the video is really outstanding. Today they made a very good job explaining, and then you also touched to a lot of such conceptions, including the ones why it's difficult to understand God. The main reason is because we have received, myself, in my Catholic education when I was young, we received an image or a definition of God which is somehow misleading. And everyone, depending on the culture and the region, as Dan properly told it, is understanding God in a different way. Maybe just if I take an extreme example, when you go, what is God, for instance, in North Korea? In North Korea, God is Kim Jong-un. So you see how this conception of divinity is changing. And I really remember, was the first time in my life, it was something like 1986, I read the Spirit's book, and this question, famous introduction, of course, which is outstanding, and this question number one, what is God? I remember having spent a lot of time only in this first question, because for me it was simply something revolutionary, as the Spirit's book is basically, and really putting it in this way of supreme intelligence, means supreme, there is nothing above it, and first cause of all things. I mean, every effect has a cause. This cause itself is an effect which has itself a cause, and then we can iterate infinitely, and only then we reach what is the definition of God. For me, it was really something, revolutionary, simple, because it's 2 lines only. 2 lines. When you go to Wikipedia and look God, you have pages and pages and pages. Here, it's only 2 lines. 2 lines, and you have the definition of God. And it's a paradox. The simplest things are sometimes the most complicated to understand, isn't it? And these two lines really gave me a conception very different of God, because when I was thinking about the Catholic definition of the Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Spiritus Santo, and so on, I was thinking, never was able to understand that. In the Spirit's book, really, I was able to understand at least the root itself of God. Then, of course, when you go to the next sections, it explains you the attributes of God, the proof of the existence of God that also Dan touched very well. And it comes also to another point where when Kardec is asking, can we know the intrinsic nature of God, which is also has been explained very well in the video, then the spirits very clearly, they say, hey, we ourselves are not capable to define it, so how could we explain it to you? And you have still a language which is much poorer than ours. So it's impossible to explain it. And this is also a very big lesson of humility in the Spirit's book, to know from the beginning, in the first questions, that there are some things that we cannot know. We don't have yet the condition to understand it fully. It's not because we don't understand fully something that the thing is not existing, okay? What they gave us as evidences of the existence, the definition, and the proof of the existence of God, and seeing also all these consistencies between all the attributes of God, this makes us the understanding, at least of what we are capable to understand at this moment, much easier, and again, on a rational aspect, so a rational understanding of what God is, and also a position that we cannot know everything. So on another hand, another difficulty lies in the fact that God, when we talk about God, we talk about infinity. He is infinite in all his attributes, in goodness, in knowledge. He is present everywhere at the same time, and so on. And for us, it's even so in the mathematics when we were in the gymnasium, studying the infinite and the asymptotical approach of the curve, which is coming closer and closer, but never touches the asymptote. No? All these notions are helping us to understand these notions of the infinite. And why is, for instance, it enables us to understand why in the Catholic teachings, for instance, Jesus is considered as the same entity through this Trinity with God, because Jesus is a spirit which is very highly elevated, so very high on this curve, very close to the asymptote. So we can, seeing it from our low level where we are, we think it's at the same point, but it is not. And we are. It's very easy for us, if we don't think enough, to make the mixture between what is very big and what is infinite. But again, it is not the same. So this helps a lot to understand more practically these things, to bring all this understanding to the rational way, and also to stay humble. We cannot understand everything on God. But what's important for us in our lives to overcome our difficulties is to know that God exists, to see the evidences of its existence, and to see also the evidences of its infinite mercy for all his creatures, which we are. So that's what I wanted to say. So it is, we have difficulties, but we can overcome them, staying humble, and reach a reasonable understanding of what God is. And this helps us a lot in our lives.
Yeah, my friend, thank you. Thank you. I hope you like the croissant, John. It's very, very touching. Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Thank
Next
you.
time I will bring one. I would
Yeah.
offer one to you all, I would, but virtually it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. But now I invite you to let's have a real cuppa. See with Miss Gibbons. See, we are in her living room now. So
Yes.
let's play let's do this a little bit different here. I'd like to ask a question to both of you, Dan and Silvia, and let's put you two talk.
Mm.
And the following question is: does God watch over us? And then you said you like to go to this chapel in the Westminster
Westminster.
Abbey. How to talk to God, my friend?
Well, I think that we should give the really hard questions to Silvia, because that makes it easier for me.
Thank
But-
you. Well,
So,
it's
yeah.
yeah. Go on then.
No, I was
If
going to say,
want
would you like to start?
Okay. I think this can be such a philosophical topic, and we can be talking about this for days. And, this has happened throughout history, the discussion about God and everything. And with Spiritism, as we've heard in the video and by Charles, and also what Dan said, it's a lot of explanation and so much easier to understand, because if we put the concept that God's an intelligence and it's the first cause of all things, so we know that everything that exists in the world was created by God. And it is a difficult concept to gather, because as Charles pointed out, the Spirit said, we cannot completely understand the nature of God in the state of development, spiritual development that we are. And I used to have a lot of problems. There was a time in my life when I was in my teenagers that it became a very intellectual revolutionary. I came to the conclusion that God could not exist. He could not exist. I used to see such a horrible things, and I think at the time when we started first having real pictures coming out of war zones that until that time we didn't have. And also started the satellites, and we could see things happening. And I mean, obviously, everybody seems to be very young here, but you're seeing pictures. And I remember seeing this picture from Vietnam with the little children, and they had like capes behind them. And then when I read, they were actually their skin. Was terrible, was shocking. And, there was wars and famine and millions of people dying of starvation and terrible wars going on. And then I thought to myself, God cannot exist in a world like this. It's impossible. God is an illusion. As a child, I used to go to church with my grandmother because she liked company, and I used to go with her. And I did believe in God. But then I thought, no, in this world, it cannot be possible that God exists when such a horrible things happen. And it was for a long time, I completely left the idea of God. I just came to the conclusion by what I saw around me in the world that God was not possible. It did not exist. And I feel that a lot of people still feel like that. But gracefully, I came to Spiritism, and I still had a bit of, and even now sometimes I still challenges me this. But I came to the conclusion that when he said God is an intelligence and he gave us free will. So I thought, no, if God gave us free will, then whatever is happening in the world is not God's, it's ours, it's our own creation. We're doing this to ourselves. And so I just started learning and things that I could relate to, be charitable, be good. And I think I really was when also I understood and could relate more to Jesus and the lessons that he gave. Love God, And then to me, I would stop there. But he said, and love your neighbor as yourself. This thing I could bring on board to my life and saying, yes, I don't want the people to treat me badly. So I also have to treat people well if I wanted to have it back, and to be charitable and to be loving and to learn to forgive and to learn to give and to understand that we are not all the same. We have differences, to accept people's difference, whether their color, their religion, their physical abilities. And that was something that was beginning to integrate in me. And now it's part of my life. I couldn't really have a different view. It's part of me, this. And I wait for the moment when, what time when I'll be spiritually advanced to come to the point that I can maybe comprehend God. But having said that, I know God exists now. I know it exists. I know because I have had proof of his existence, not only when I see the most beautiful things. Sometimes you have experiences in your life that are very dark, are very, very, and you think, nothing is going to be ever good again. And then I remember being on a trip in the south of France and looking at that blue sea and the white houses and the green in the mountains. And suddenly I thought, oh no, this is wonderful. This is a beautiful world. God is here, because there is beauty as well. And sometimes I think, to me, I feel that God is there and exists in my heart, because when I'm in desperate situations, that I'm confused, I don't know what to do, what to go, how I will decide something, a life-changing. I see someone, I lost my parents, lost my mother and friends, and those times are very, very hard. And then something, happens and you can cope. That strength is there. So I think that's when God is inside you, helping you. And I think that is the most interesting thing, because, you can be I remember once being quite low for some reason. I was very upset. And, it's so easy sometimes when you are in that situation to feel that you are the only person who's suffering, and then someone phones, a friend phones and say, oh, I've been thinking about you a lot. How are you? And suddenly, you are in a different world. It's good. And I think that's when God is there showing you his presence in your life. And just to conclude, I think one of the things that moves me quite a lot whenever I see that image of the footsteps in the sand, I think we all know that, and he said, oh, you abandoned me, because that's our first reaction. God, you're not there with me. You abandoned when I needed you most. And he said, no, that's when I carried you. That's why there is only the 2 foot. And whenever I start thinking that, oh, God doesn't love me or something like that, I think of the footsteps. And, sometimes also in a situation, oh, God doesn't love me, nothing works for me. And then later on, times something happens and you think, oh, thank you, God, you were there for me, you were helping me. And I just didn't know it. So I think now God exists for me at those times. And also, when I wake up in the morning and I see the rain, I see the sun, or I go to a museum and I see a beautiful painting, or I read a book and there's this beautiful poetry and it touches your heart, then God is there. That's how I feel God now. To me, it exists and exists within me, helping me to live. And I think that's how I see it. Sorry, I think I spoke more than 5 minutes. Sorry about that.
It was lovely. It was lovely, Silvia. I don't have much to add. I think you did a great job. I was just thinking as you're talking about it of something that Charles said, and we also saw it in the video, which is it's so hard for us to understand something so great as God is with our current understanding, right? Much the same way that is hard for a child perhaps to understand quantum physics. It's just the knowledge is not just there yet. But what we can understand is love. And is God watching over us was one of the questions, right? And I think that if we can imagine the biggest love we can possibly have and multiply it by how many times we can, and imagine that you love something so much, do you think that you would be able to just create it and walk away from it? Probably not, right? So I think God is watching us. It's caring for us. It's not watching us in a judgmental way, but it's following our steps, everybody's steps, and caring. And God loves us so much as to give us that free will, that ability to make our own choices. I think that there is probably no greater love than free will, to give us an opportunity to make our own mistakes and to get things right. So I am always reassured by the beauty of the world and God because we have that choice. Sometimes we make great choices, but that's how we learn too in the long run, right? So I hope that out of the
It froze.
Yeah, his internet, it's a problem.
It's froze.
Yeah. Well, the big huge stop.
Yeah, he stopped. I think what Dan was saying, it's a point as well, isn't it? Because also, I think one of the things that prove that God exists and He's watching over us and He's helping us, guiding us, is because when we do wrong things, and then we have always redemption. There is always another opportunity. We are giving chances to do things in a better way, like through reincarnation, when we can redo the lessons that maybe in the past we did something, and we understand the idea of suffering because I've done something and now I have asked to learn some of the lessons, and you can correct it and you can change it and you can change the past if you've done something that was not good. There is always a way out, the light of the world. And I think this is really, really important because that shows God's love as well.
Yes, and apparently God is everywhere, but my internet is not. So thank you for your patience.
Well, you're back again, so that's fine.
Yeah. So we do have here some three questions actually. Let me here. From Munir, since we lack the intellectual elements to fully understand what God is, can we rely on our feelings to have a better perception of God?
I don't think it's intellectual.
Who's tackling that one?
Which one?
Very good question. We know Munir already. And so Munir, thanks for this question and congratulations for it. I would say, as you could correctly write, we lack the intellectual elements to fully understand what God is. But still, we have intellectual elements to understand what we can understand, even if it's not fully what God is. Okay? So this gives us a basis, and this basis the spirits have brought in the spirits book and all the complementary literature about God. So then, of course, we can rely on our feelings to have a better perception of God, to assimilate us better with it, and not with Him, with God. Sure, I mean, we get a lot of information, and intuition is something fundamental in our lives. There can be good intuitions and can be less good intuition, but the intuition we receive when duly analyzed and duly, sorted out by yourself, seeing whether it's in line with these basic elements we received already, is something which indeed can help us a lot to have a better perception of God. Because again, intuition is the way of mediumship that everybody has. When we tell everybody's medium, is who has now never intuition or never has any inspiration or the voice of the conscience. So through this, we really can again have a better perception of God and integrate God into this general life philosophy, which is its consequence, the consequence of its own existence through our permanent evolution.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. I'm in full agreement with you, Charles. I was going to jump in there if that's okay. I love that. And I love what's something that I know folks picked up. I think Charles said something really great in a previous answer too, is because we don't fully understand God, it doesn't mean we shouldn't try, right? And we can continue to grow on that understanding as is expected. So just because we can't do it doesn't mean that we don't try and continue to stretch ourselves on that. And I would say that it's lovely to be able to intellectualize and cognate about it, but it's also important to run that past our hearts. I think we need both. I think we need the intellect to propel us further and our hearts to check whether we are just not self-serving when we're just intellectualizing, because sometimes we can rationalize, right? Sometimes we can come up with explanations that fits that which we want to do. But if we check it with our feelings and with our intuition and whether that makes sense, I think that's a good combo to use both of them when I think that's a really great question.
Thank you, my friends. A question here. Let's go to our Elsa here, my friend. You are so quiet today. So, question for you here. Are we different from God?
Yes.
You're on mute, Elsa.
You're on mute, Elsa.
You're muted, Elsa.
And thank you for copying me and being on mute just like I was in the beginning.
I am so careful with background noise that I always put it on mute. But doesn't mean that I would. I'm not doing a noise here with my little dog. Yes. But the good questions, really a deep question that Guilherme wrote. And I can say, as far as I know, that all of us, not God, were created simple and ignorant from everything for the first point. So we are evolving as Jesus, as other superior spirits, but we never be God. Never. God is just one, infinite, merciful, everything in the question number 1 of the Spirit's book. So we will be, of course, higher evolved spirit. Jesus is the medium of God. He is almost there, but he's not there. Jesus never will be God. God will be just, is, and will be always just one. So if you will, okay, see the question again. If we are different from God, yes, we are different from God. We never know God. We don't know his texture, his enlightenment, his size, or whatever. We don't know. We feel God. The Apostle John, if you don't ask me who is God, I know. If you ask me, I don't know. So is it, as Muni pointed, we can, with our feelings, sentiments, our inner voice, feel God, because his laws is here. So we feel God for these small gestures, small, beautiful, colorful insect, to the beautiful leaves that I collected this afternoon. I make some arrangement with a huge leaves from the beautiful tree in different colors of the leaf. The Oh, just one leaf for me. When I saw the leaf, I said, my goodness, this is so beautiful. No one can do this, only God. So I can see God in his things that create in the world. Imagine the universes or multi-universes. Is okay?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Also, we have a comment here from Isabella. It's kind of question and comment, but we can go deeper here. Isabella says, "Okay, Dan is back," and Isabella said to us, without the belief of God, the meaning of life would change. Try to imagine a world without the belief of God." Silvia, do you mind to comment about it?
No, without the belief in God. I think this, to try to imagine a world without God would not be possible, because God is inherent in us. We are God's creations. That's why we're different, because we are created by him. I think Kardec had this really interesting quote that, he said it was like a painter. He paints, as you see the painting, as beautiful as it is, but the painting is not the painter. And I think that's a very good explanation to God. I think it's impossible for us because God exists within us. And even people who think, and some people are quite genuine in what they say, that they don't accept God, that God does not exist. I think in many ways, God doesn't exist for them. To that time, something must have happened, because I don't think it's possible to imagine a world without God. Because it exists within us, this knowledge is with us. But if we were to imagine it, it would be a horrible world. It would be not very, would be empty. I think Dan said something about the word love, and when Charles was talking as well, because we don't understand God only with the intellect. We need a heart, and also moral probity as well. We need something more. And imagine living in a world without love, with nobody caring for anybody else, everyone only caring for themselves. We wouldn't survive it. It wouldn't be possible to survive. Imagine you think food just for yourself. You would never share with anyone.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
Sorry.
it's exactly like Isabella wrote to here, and I put it here. And it is about your comment. Silvia, during a war, it seems that God don't exist. No hope, no life, only suffering. That's a world without love.
Yes, but it is not quite like this. I remember, I've read some things about people living in concentration camps, and there were people who had, they found a little bit of bread and they would spread it, share with other people. Some people would keep for themselves, but others would give it to others. I mean, even in that, that I think the closest idea that we have from hell is what happened in those camps during the war. And even there was, even though sometimes the people were really nice, they liked one of the people there and they treat them well. So there were people who would share, there were people who would help. So I think even in the worst conditions, there will be always someone who will have that light a bit stronger than others and will help others, even in the deepest hell that we can create on earth. So it is suffering, it is pain, it is, I think hell, really, hell on earth. Because I think one of the things that we learn, that in going to acceptance of God, because God is, you have to accept his life, his presence on your life. everything has to do with something that it creates on us, that love for other people, that understanding. It's in all this creation, these difficulties and the pain and the despair, there is always something good coming out of it. We learn things. We learn how not to behave in a bad way, how to be more tender to people. Like say, for instance, when somebody answers really bad something, and it's like somebody slaps you in the face, and you get very angry and upset, but then later on you think, oh my God, I must never behave like that. So even with all the suffering, with all the pain, there is learning, there is enrichment of our soul, and there is always someone who helps. So I think that's what makes life worth living, and not letting go, because there is always a helping hand reaching out, and that's how God watches over us and help us, by having the people, his people, reaching out to us with their hands, helping us, feeling us. And sometimes when you are in the middle of the deepest despair, that you are in that dark space, that the more you try to come out of it, the deeper you seem to go. Then sometimes there is a phrase that somebody said something to you, or you feel that hand reaching out. So that's always worth. Life is worth because God watches over us. He loves us, and he helps us by sending other people to help us. And I think that's what makes it worth, really.
Wonderful. Thank you, my dear. Wonderful words. Thank you very much. And just come across with my last question, which goes to our guest today. Dan, we are in September, and in September we see a lot of efforts from around the world fighting to suicide, working on suicide prevention, and most of the reasons someone decide to kill himself or herself is because they don't find any meaning to live. They don't find the God they are seeking for these answers. So, what's your message for those people? If someone is watching us today with that feeling, what is your words for them?
There are so many things we wish we could say, and so many hugs we wish we can give them, because sometimes I think being present and showing our love and affection can speak louder than words. But I would say that, suicide is a permanent solution for a temporary problem. Everything that we face, although extremely hard that it is, can be overcome. And here's why I say that, because of what we were talking about, love. If God is all loving, God would never give us a challenge that's beyond our ability to meet it. If something harsh and difficult presents itself in our lives, it's because we have the ability to overcome it. Maybe we are not going to overcome it the way we wish we will, but we will overcome. Maybe we'll need help from somebody else. Maybe others will come and assist us, but we can overcome that. We can see a way through it. And we say that because in Spiritism, we have also had the benefit of being able to hear the tales of those who have taken their own lives and share with us from the beyond, from the spiritual side of things, how they feel. And categorically, and without exception, they deeply regret taking their lives because they missed an opportunity to practice something important and learn a very difficult lesson, but that they could. So if in this moment you are feeling perhaps a little down and a little sad, just remember that there are people that are near you that continue to love you. And as a matter of fact, there might be people who you cannot see, whether they are incarnates like ourselves or discarnates, who are loving you, who are sending you their best. You have so many friends that you've just forgotten about. In the spiritual realm, that is also true. If you have lived previous lives, and you have lived many lives, you have had mothers and fathers and siblings and lovers and friends and sisters and brothers who continue to love you, because we don't stop loving those who have passed over, and those who have passed over don't stop loving us. So just imagine the incredible amount of love that is flowing in your direction every single day that you just forgot about. And if you are in a difficult situation, talk to somebody, open your heart to somebody. There are a lot of people out there who care for you. And I won't extend myself very much because I know that we're at time, but I want to tell you something beautiful that deeply touched my heart yesterday. I was walking over, as I like to walk when I visit, and I was crossing over Lambeth Bridge. And all of a sudden I stopped because in the floor, I saw a little letter right in the middle of the bridge. And that little letter was a letter that somebody wrote and left there because sometimes people use that bridge as a last resort to jump over. And that letter says, don't jump. We love you. We care you. There are people in this world that really care about you. And it touched me because it was a letter written by somebody that did not know whoever it was, but that was thinking about the fact that somebody could be in a tough situation. And what a love letter that was. A love letter to somebody they never met. So if people are caring for others that they have never met, why would they not care for people who they have met? So if you are struggling, reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, let them know, talk it through, and I'm sure you will be able to find a solution. It might not be immediate, but I'm sure you can find a solution and some support long term. So hang in there. God is with you and for you. And as the Apostle Paul said, if God is for you, who can be against you? So I hope that in September we are reminded of the love that's everywhere, that if only we can see, maybe a little bit of it will enter our hearts and will make things a little bit easier for us.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. So our time is up, my friends, and it's time to say goodbye. I have our announcements here, but we cannot finish without saying about this book here, Our Road to Damascus. It's written by Dan, and it's a wonderful book. You can have a paperback, or also you can have in your Kindle. Go to Amazon and you can have it. And the reason is we have something in the oven. So hopefully, shortly and soon, and we have more gifts for our Christmas. Where perhaps we don't know when we're gonna have it, but please read it and let's find out our road to Damascus. See, even though our friends from Chicago saying it's a very good book. Thank you, Don. Thank you very much. Okay, let me go to the final announcements here. Let me add here my road. Oh, I forgot to put it. Let's go like this. So our next episode from next Wednesday is Don't Look Back, Dry Your Tears. So it's an effort for the September Yellow September, and we hope have you all here with us next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Okay, so also we do have Buzz newsletter number 75.
I will talk quickly because we have a PDF of our newsletter in our website, buzz.org.uk, and the 5 last pages with the campaign, Be an Ambassador of Life. All the explanations are there. New logo, the campaign new name is a continuation of Say Yes to Life, but in a different format, in a different way. And have a Facebook page. Go there. If you need anything, if you think something, you can go there. You can contact us, the creator of this campaign, and you will receive information and consoling. Please think twice. Think more times without doing anything harm to yourself.
Yeah.
It is. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And life is worth. And talking about life, our dear Elsa, on the 25th of September, last Saturday of September, she will give us a talk in the European Spiritist Gathering. And the topic is Life, a Wonderful Gift. So please join us. It's open to everyone. Anyone can attend this. So here is the link. Here is the Zoom meeting ID and passcode. So please, on the 25th of September at 7 o'clock London time, 8 o'clock Paris time, and 9 p.m. Finland time. Also, as our tradition for this year, we will have on the first Saturday of October, which is 2nd of October, our dear friend Alexandre Caldini talking about the why of life. It's about of the series of Leon Denis. At the same time, in October, we will have our friend Charles Kempf giving a talk, Allan Kardec, a pioneer of science and spirituality, on the 3rd. So just on next Sunday after Alexandre Caldini, we will have Charles talking about it. Last but not least, our dear friends from Kardec Group, they do have a wonderful podcast, Insightfully Speaking, and is available on all the podcast platforms. Also, they support 2 groups in Brazil. The campaign is called the High Five. One group is in Salvador, Grupo Espírita Sheila, and the other one is in Curitiba, Instituto Mutirão. So if you want to help, please reach them out. And also, I want to say, our dear Dan, he has a podcast available in all platforms as well, Spiritist Conversation, which, by the way, the last episode was like kind of 2 weeks ago, something like this. It was wonderful conversation they have. So I strongly recommend to everyone to walk and listen to the podcast. Okay? So then, safe trip back home. Say hello, a great warm, wonderful return home with your wife, your kids. Say hi to them. At the same time, we want to say thank you, my friend Charles, my dear Silvia, my dear Elsa. Thank you very much for your time. And if you want to say your final greetings, please speak up.
Now just say goodbye and until next week. And, God is watching over each and every one of us. We are not alone. And I think also try to awaken the love you have in your own heart, because it's very, very important. That what in those dark moments is what give us the strength to reach out. And there is always a hand is reaching out to reach you and to help you and guide you. So have a good week, everyone. May God bless us all.
So say thank you very much and be with us next week. And God bless us all. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
What a no.
Thank you
for having me.
One and all.
Charles, before let's leave it down for the last.
Merci beaucoup. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Simple like that.
And see you soon.
Merci.
Dan, thank you, my friend.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Great being with you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, God bless. Enjoy London.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.